Learning a block tomorrow. Today's daf is daf Kuf Chav Hey. We have good. We have so we have now. We're discussing the rules of a b'choir. Just to quickly remind you, a b'choir gets a double portion, and like two individuals. And we said the general rule is he only gets in muhzik only that which already exists, not something which is merely row. Because it says you should bequeath to your children that which you have. But we have an argument, the definition of muhzik, what's considered that you already have. So we discussed, let's say, improvements, natural improvements. If they invested in it in the children and they improved the assets of their late father after he passed away, then everyone gets an equal portion. We're talking about natural outgrowth. So we had an argument, the Rabbanon, the Chachamim. The Rabbanon said that if the tree itself becomes thicker, for example, of course, everyone agrees it happened by itself. So whatever happens evolves by itself, and nobody put any effort into it. It's as if it already happened. It's already, within the asset of the father and the late father, and therefore the older son gets a double portion. Where they argue is that, for example, it was only grass growing and then turned into stalks of wheat. Initially, when the father died, it was merely fodder, and then became a stalk of wheat. It had a name change. The Chacham says it's not row. There's something new. The Bechor does not get a double portion of that, and Rebbe holds that even then you get a double portion. But everyone agrees that if they put effort into it, then the Bechor does not get a double portion. And now we have basically three opinions when it comes to a loan. So one opinion of Yehuda says the name of Shmuel. When it comes to a loan, according to Chachamim, if the father died and the loan was not paid out, even though there was a contract, that he holds that is considered row, suitable, and therefore the b'choig does not get a double portion, not in the loan, and of course not in the interest if it's, let's say, a loan from a goy. If it's according to the Eretz Yisrael, Sholchum Mitam, in Eretz Yisrael, they said that even according to Chachamim, you do get a double portion in the loan part. You just don't get a double portion in the interest. And the logic is the loan, I gave you the loan. Yeah, the father, before he passed away, lent somebody money, and he received a contract in his place. We're talking about only a contractual loan. The contract is like the replacement of the money. It's as if he's still holding on to the money that he gave, and therefore it's considered a muhzik. But the interest is something that is totally outside of what the father gave. It's something extra, and since it wasn't paid out yet, it's merely row. And then you have Rebbe that says, Bein b'milva, bein b'ribis, the b'choir is entitled to both, because they're both considered like muhzik. It's considered as if this is a shevach, an improvement that grew out of the shtar. You have the piece of paper, and everything you're going to get paid from is coming from this piece of paper, from this document. So that this is like considered something that improved by itself. And because it improved by itself, Rebbe said before that he holds, even if you want to call it a name change, this is interest, doesn't matter, since it evolved from itself, and therefore Rebbe says you're entitled to a double portion. Okay, so that's where we're up to, and we're up to Kuf Chav Daled Beis, actually on the bottom of the page. Says the Gemara, about 6 lines from the bottom of the page. Rav Acha bar Rav said to Ravina, Ikla ameima la'asrei. Ameima, one of the last Amoraim, came once to our region, the Dorish, and he made the following drasha. B'choir noitel pish nine b'milva, that a b'choir gets a double portion of the loan, abalei b'ribis, but not of the interest. Does not get a double portion of the interest. And so he said to him, Ravina said to Rav Acha, that this is very consistent with the general view of Neherdoi. That what? That this view that of the loan is considered muhzik and the interest is not. It's the loan that's muhzik that we're trying to understand, because the loan, we're following now the view of the Chacham. Of course, according to Rebbe, it's considered a muhzik. It's not only the loan, it's also the interest part. So obviously this goes according to Chachamim, and we're saying that according to Chachamim, it's considered a muhzik, the loan part, but not the interest part. So how is the loan part considered a muhzik? Says it like this: the Amar Rabba. Now we're going to say that Ameimar follows the view of Rav Nachman. There's an argument of Nachman and Rabba and Rab Nachman is from the Herdoi, and Rab Nachman therefore and Rabba both say the same thing. And the Gemara says as follows. Says the Gemara, yeah. The Doi is considered viewed. We have an argument between Rabba and Rab Nachman, and it goes as follows. The Omar Rabba said, Gobu Karka. If let's say they collected from a lender, the father loaned money to somebody, and then after he passed away, that money was collected. The b'choyer is entitled to a double portion, but we're going to break it down further. When we say that a loan there's a double portion, it has to be muhsik. Remember, we're following the Chachamim that says you only get a double portion with muhsik. There's two ways of paying. A borrower can pay either with cash or can pay with property. One of them we're going to say is considered a muhsik, more than the other. And there's an argument between Rabbah and Rab Nachman, which one is considered more a muhsik, paying back with money or paying back with property. And only in that case do we say that the b'choyer is entitled to a double portion. But it pays back with the other way, the alternative method, that's considered remote. It was not connected to the father when he died. It was only a row, and therefore the b'choyer does not get a double portion. And the argument goes as follows. Rabba says, Govu karka yeshle. Govu mois ainly. If he collected property on behalf of the loan, then the children are entitled to it. Why? Because there was a lien on the property. When the father was alive, there was a shibud, there was a lien on the property. Therefore, it's as if the property already was connected to the father when he was alive. That's muhsik. So the b'choyer is entitled to a double portion. Of the Govu mois ain't like it paid with cash. The money that the father lent him is no longer here. This is new money. So this money, all it is there's a debt on the individual, on the borrower to pay back. But the money that he's paying back with was not in existence and had no connection to the father when the father was alive. Only now, if the father passed away. So that's called ro, and therefore, according to the Chachamim, you're not entitled to a double portion. That's the view of Rabbah. And Rab Nachman is exactly the opposite. Rab Nachman said, Gobu mois yeshli. If you collected money, the father lent money, he gave back money. So that's what he gave you in the first place. So therefore, it's considered as if it's a muhzik, and you get double portion. But if you give karka is something that who says that you will get the property? This borrower has a right to sell all the properties that he had in existence while the lender was alive. He could have sold it. And he could have paid only with cash. Doesn't have to pay property at all. So there's no connection really between the property and the lender until he actually gives it. And that was after the father passed away. So therefore, at the time of the father's death, it was merely row. And that's why he's not entitled to property. So this machlek is a svara between Rabba and Nachman. Amalei Abaye now turned on to Rabba, and he says, I have a problem with all of you. I have a logical problem and a technical problem. So I have two problems with you, one a logical, one technical, and Rab Nachman kasha. I have a problem with Rab Nachman as well. The technicality is going to be that you're contradicting yourself. You're contradicting another halacha you said somewhere else, and Rab Nachman is contradicting another halacha. Remember, in this case over here, Rabbah says that land you're attached to already is muhzik, and according to Rab Nachman, it's the money that you're attached to. So let's go through it. My problem with you is as follows. First of all, in logic, why are you telling me that if you pay back with money, it's considered only a potential, only a row? It's not considered as if it's already muhzik. The lav hanimois shavik avun. This is not the very same money the father gave. So therefore, you say there was no connection between the father and the money at the time of his death. So there's only row. This land, who said this is the land that was around then? There was. The borrower had a choice to give any property he wanted, right? Number one. Number two is he could have sold all the properties and you would have no property. So therefore, there's no real connection to the property in logic until he actually takes it. So why do you call that a muhsik? Logic. Now, a technical problem. Boy, furthermore, ha'atu the amrid, you yourself said later on the Gemara, which we'll see, in the case, the case as follows. This woman... This woman was married to somebody, and she died. She predeceased her grandmother. The grandmother is a very wealthy woman, and the grandmother owned a lot of assets. But the granddaughter died, and she was the only, let's say, heir. The granddaughter, direct line, she died before the grandmother. So the husband does not yashin, even though we said before the husband is the one who inherits his wife, but because When his wife died, those assets was merely a potential. It was only row by his wife. It wasn't muhzik by his wife. So the husband does not inherit that. It stays in the grandmother's family, sisters, whatever it is, other family members. And you came along and you added mistaber timer. What's the reason? We have a constant yeshirusha behavior that even though you pass away, it still goes through you to the next generation or to the next heir. The mistaber timer the you know what the story is? The e kodem safta v'zavna is vina. Because the grandmother could have sold the property before, but after the daughter passed away, and therefore there was no connection between these properties and to the next heir until she actually died, and she didn't sell it. So that's the swara. So follow the same line of reasoning over here. Since the property, you're saying the property is going to move, why? The borrower could have sold the property to the very last moment, and you get nothing. What's the difference? That's my technical problem. Next, Rab Nachman, I have the same problem. A logical problem and a technical problem. Kasha, why does Rachman hold the other way around? Money, just you lent money, you get it back. But karka, you're not a mukzik because he can sell whatever it is. You tell me why? Because this is lav dafke, you're going to end up with a property, and this is another property. You can give another property. It's not the same money that the father gave. If the father gave money, that milvaloit's on it. He had every right to spend it. This is new money. So what connection is there? Why you tell me it's because in mukzik? That's logic. Technically. But we had Rab Nachman said in the name of Rabbi Yisayimim. What happens Yisayimim after their father passed away? The father owed money to other people. Number one, he owed money to other people. And then the father passed away, and people owed money to the father. So if the Yisayimim collect money from the people who owe their father, they don't have to pay off their father's loans because there's no shibud on this money, and metalta the yasmel mishtabzel balchayv. So when these Yisayim inherited the money that people owed to their father, no balchayv has a right to say to the children, "Okay, pay out that money," because there's no shibud on this money. But if they collected karka, in other words, the children of the person who died, somebody owed that person money. So now they collected property. Then the lender of that father has a right to say, well, the property, there's a shibud on the property, I'm taking it. Now, even though that property was only potential. When the father died, he didn't have the property at his reshus. The borrower hadn't paid him up. And yet we're saying the lender can say, yes, it's a muhzik, and I can take from this property. And so we see from the what? That by karka there is a muhzik, even though the property wasn't collected yet. Exactly the opposite of what you said, and you're the one who said it. Said the Gemara, Amar Rab Nachman, Amar Rab Abu. You Rab Nachman said name Abu. You say him should go with karka. If you say him picked up karka, the chayv the father, Baal chayv chayziv goyim, and the Baal chayv can come, and then another Baal chayv, another lender can retrieve it. So you see clearly that what the property is in muhzik. Amalei, he said to him, Leila didi kasha, Leila Rab Nachman kasha. So Rabbi says to Rabbi, you have no question. You know why? First of all, your problem is because we're soiser ourselves. What we said over here, this machlekes that we had, that one of them your muhzik, either property or money, was only trying to explain the opinion of the people from Eretz Yisrael who hold like the Rabbanon that only a muhzik you get a double portion, and yet they saying that you get a double portion by a loan. So we're trying to explain according to them, when is a loan a double portion? So one of us said only when you pay back the money. One of us said you want to pay back the property. But we personally hold that that's never the case. We personally hold that's both of us hold that is like Shmuel. Shmuel said that every loan is only a row. I don't care if it's money. I don't care if it's land. It's only a row, exactly like you're asking. And therefore, the b'chor is not entitled to double portion. Are you going to find that we said something else elsewhere? It doesn't bother us because we're not voicing our opinion here. We're explaining the opinion of Marav, people like Israel. So Leila di kasha, Leila nachli kasha. Taima de b'nei Marav coming in. We're only explaining the people of Marav. At Israel, their opinion. Of the long way, we ourselves don't hold this at all. We ourselves hold like Shmuel that says that you don't get only by a row, and we believe that a loan is always a row. For the reason that you said, we believe that a loan is a row because the money is not the same money. The property you can always sell, and therefore there's no muhzik until you actually pay it up. What does remain then a question is how come in the case of Yisraimim Shagova Karka B'Chayva Savir, why is it that if the Yisraimim collect property from a debtor, then a creditor come along and take it away? If you're telling me it's not considered muzik, why can the creditor come after the death of the father? And Yisraim only collected it after the death of the father. Why can he come and take it? We'll see soon. So I think, first of all, my safta. What's the case of safta that somebody said the chosai lesapta? This is the case. A guy said, I am. A guy said, I'm giving my nechasim to. Here's the case like this: a person was dying. It was a young man who was dying, and he said, "You know what? I am giving my entire estate lesapta to my grandmother. Ubashro liartoy. And after she passes away, I want my heir I want my heir to get it. I don't want my grandmother's heirs to get it, say her son, which happens to be my brother or maybe a stepbrother. I want it to go to my heir, for example, my son or my daughter. Right? If I don't have any children, then my brother. So because remember, the grandmother might have 10 children. I don't want to go to my uncles and everything else. I want to go to my heir. That's what he said. So the chasar l'sapta ubasor liyartay. I'm giving this. I want my grandma to inherit first, and then to my heirs. Havele Barta. So what happened was he had a daughter. The Havenesiba was married to somebody. This person who was dying, the Shchimera, had a daughter who was married to somebody. Shchiva b'chai b'ayla, but she predeceased her grandmother. She died first. Ubechai sapta. She predeceased her grandmother. She died before her husband, and she died before her grandmother. She did not inherit yet her grandmother. Basa the Shchiva sapta. After the grandmother died, came the husband and said, well, the guy said he wants his daughter to be Yashin, the grandmother. So my daughter, even though she died, my wife, which is the granddaughter, which is his daughter, she died first, doesn't matter. She Yashins in the cave, now it should go horizontally across to me. Asabal comes the husband, Kotova, and he's demanding it. Amar Rav Huna, so we have an argument. Rav Huna says, he said, Liyarti, to my heirs. Well, I feel Liyarti, even the heirs of my heirs. So in other words, my daughter, she Yashra. Well, if she's not around, then whoever Yashras her, which is her husband. So Rav Huna Paskin, the husband's entitled to it. But Rav Anan says, Liyarti, Veloy Liyarti Yarti. He clearly stressed my heirs. It should go to my heirs. If my daughter is alive, she should yash it. But if my daughter is not alive, it should go to her husband, which is taking it away. That's not what I wanted. Then it should go back to the grandmother, whoever her Yershima. Okay, that's the machlekes Abunavan. Sholchum mitam. They sent there from there to Yisrael. Hilchus kavos Rabban. The Allah that the husband does not get it. But not for his reason. What's the reason that Rav Anan? I wanted to go to my daughter only to her, right? But not to someone who yashins her. Following that logic, what would be, forget the husband, what would be if she had a son? If this guy's daughter died, but she had a son. According to Rabbanan, he wouldn't yash neither, because he's the Yiddish of the Yiddish. He just said, to my Yarti, to my Yiddish. The Baal lo yodit, that the husband doesn't yash, but not for his reason. Deal with Rabbanan hold afagav the havele bro parte lo yodit. According to Rabbanan, even forget the husband. Even working your way straight down. If this guy's daughter had a son and the daughter predeceased the grandmother, according to Rabban's logic, it wouldn't go to the grandson, because that's the Yiddish of his daughter. That's not what he said. Surely that's the Yashins. So why Taka doesn't husband the Yashin? You know why the husband is Yashin? Because when it comes to a straight line, forget about a normal pashut. I don't care if it's row, if it's mosik. Father passes away, they take they step in the father's shoes, and any payments that happen in 10 years from now, cash, the yashins. It's only a pchoy that doesn't yashin row, and neither does a husband. A husband does not yashin row. We learned if you remember, one of the rayos was, it says, give us Pinchas b'noy, that Elazar was buried in the property that belonged to Pinchas, and we asked the question, how does Pinchas own anything if it didn't belong to his father? It couldn't be that Pinchas bought it, because then it's only temporary. You're able to go back, and it's pasnish that Elazar should be buried in a land that's not even a son. It will eventually go back to somebody else. So we said it was Pinchas' mother. So if it's Pinchas' mother, why didn't it go to Loza first, the husband Yashins? And we don't know who died first. So we said the reason is because it was only Ro. What happened with Pinchas' mother died before her father bequeathed his estate. So what happens then? It was Ro. The husband does not Yashin Ro. It goes down to the grandson. That's what we learned before. So a husband is not Yashiro. And that's why, in this case, the husband, Rav Anan is right, but not for the reason he says, not because of the word that he used, but because Allah is that this is only Ro. If the daughter predecedes the grandmother, she's only a Ro, and the husband is not Yashin, it goes down to the son. Well, should have Miklal. So it seems to me clearly that Rav Huna holds bound not to broke music. And so if you tell me that Rav Huna argues with Rav Huna, you tell me the reason why the husband doesn't get it is because of Ro, and yet Rav Huna says the husband does get it, what does that tell you? That Rav Huna holds that a husband is entitled to get even when the property was only Ro to his wife. But we learned before Psukim and we brought a whole bunch of rayas that, and nobody argued. How could Rav Huna and Amoyra come and argue the Tanaim that we had that says clearly that a husband does not yashin from his wife, it is merely Ro. And Meklaud Rav Huna Sava Baal Noitel Krov Muzik. Interesting, Rabbi Lazar, who's a contemporary of Huna, Rabbi Lazar says, Dover Zeh, Rabbi Lazar was next to later, it was Rabbi Yechanan, Dover Zeh Nifter B'Gdeilim. This argument started out with Gdeilim Rabbi Huna. We said that we're having more Gittin. Rabbi Huna was an unbelievable godel that everybody else, even Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, were bottled to Rabbi Huna. The Nistayim B'Ktanim. The argument started Rabbi Huna, now never need me, Rabbi Lazar Ktanim, to answer it. So he's very humble. This is a unique case. Normally, a husband does not yashin ro. If it's only potential, it's not yashin. But here, the father, the Shechimah spelled it out. I wanted to go to my grandmother, or to this woman, and then I wanted to go to my daughter. It means after it goes to my grandma, she goes to my daughter. That's called acharecha. For example, we'll have a big machlekes later. We have if a man said, we had it before as well. So if a man says you should get Reuven, you should have this property, and acharecha goes to Shimon, and then we have a case and acharecha goes to Levi. So in other words, you have it for as long as you're alive, and the moment you die, it doesn't go to your heirs. It goes to I wanted to move then to Shimon, total stranger. I want to go to Shimon. That's called acharecha. And the question is acharecha tantamount to saying it really belongs to Shimon already, but you have a life tendency. You, Reuven, can stay there and use it as long as you're alive, but afterwards go to Shimon because all along it's Shimon's. Is that pshat? Well, the pshat is no. That really it's Reuven's. But I put a rider on it. The moment Reuven can no longer use it, he's dead. It moves on to Shimon. The nafka mina is, can Reuven sell the property? One opinion says no, because really Shimon's property. Reuven only has the use of the paydas, the shtamshus, the use of it. But if Shimon Gamliel says no, it's really Shimon, it's ka'achshav dummy. It's as if it really belongs already to Shimon. Because he already stipulated, I wanted to move from you after you pass away to Shimon, it's as if it's already Shimon's. And therefore, Reuven has no right to sell it. It's ka'achshav dummy. So Rav Huna holds, Rav Huna holds, since the father said, the Shibana said, after the grandmother goes to my daughter, is as if it's already belonged to the daughter, and therefore it's not ro, it's muhzik, and that's why in this case the husband can yashin it. And Omar Rabba, and Rabba said, this is where Rabba made his comment before we had. Rabba made a comment, he said, because the grandmother could have sold it. What do you mean, where did Rabba say that comment? This is right here. Because he followed Shimon Gamliel. Shimon Gamliel says that in fact, it does not belong to Shimon. Acharecha is not like hayoim acha misa. If you said to somebody that this is yours from today, well, acha misa, but after death will be transferred to you. That's clear. You're saying it belongs to you already, but I'm still using it. Like a lot of people before, when they get older, they distribute their Yerusha. But they say, I have a life tendency in this house. The house belongs to the children, but I have a life tendency here. So, the taka belongs to children straight away. We pass, he said, Abba said, that what? It's like, it's not mahayim lachamisa. It only takes effect after the grandmother passes away. So, Kolzman, the grandmother's alive. If you want, you can sell it. Like Rav Shimon Gamliel says, acharecha means that only after he dies, the second person steps in. But while the first person's alive, it's totally his. If he wants it, it's not just Kenyan Paytas. He owns it. he wants to sell it, he can sell it. That's what Abba said. Amar Abba mistabra. It makes sense that the husband does not yashin his wife because it's only row. Why? The time of the Meirabba, the E called him safter, because the grandmother steps in. The Zavna and sells it. It's a good sale. It's a good sale. That's what Abba made his comment. Because we follow Shem Gamliel. Now the Gemara concludes. Amar Papa. Says that Papa. First of all, Hilchos of the halacha is ein habal noitul bero kibben buchsek. The halacha is that a husband does not take. A husband is not entitled in row like muhsik, which we already had before. That and nobody argues. The husband is only entitled. We just said right here. Nobody argues. The husband is only entitled in what she already has in her possession, not something which is not in her possession. But there's a difference between, as the Rishonim point out, between the husband's row, as we'll see, maybe the choy does not get a double portion in that which is row, only which is muhzik. Even though we're using exactly the same words between the Baal and the B'choy, there's a difference. The difference is by B'choy, we learned before, it's like a matana. A matana has to be total in your possession, Mishasa give it. So if there's a name change, even though, let's say, it's growing right now, and later on it becomes wheat, or there's a starting to bud, and later on becomes dates on the palm tree, we had a machlek, is there a bonus? Like I said, a muzik, is Rabbanah say, no, it's only row. Why did Rabbanah say it's row? Because it says, los seis pishnaim, like a matana. You cannot give matana if you don't have it. And for the name change, you can. But when it comes to a Baal, in that case, if she had it when it was, it was just grass growing, so just starting to bud, and then became wheat, or budding, then became dates. In that, the husband will yash it. Doesn't say they're lost says, and the fact is, it came from that. Even though it has a name change or whatever you want to call it, but it came from that. Therefore, it's considered like muhsik, and the husband will be entitled. The ein ha-choy noitul pishnaim, and the halach is like Shmuel. The b'choy does not get double portion. The milva by alone. Bein shigavu karka, bein shigavu mos. Makes no difference. Land makes no difference. Money. They're both considered potential, and the husband does not get double portion. But one last thing it says here, umalve sheimay palge, meaning what? Or milve sheimay palge. If the b'choy lent the money to his father, borrowed the money from his father. If the b'choy borrowed the money from his father, then in that case, the b'choy is very happy as a borrower that his land that he owes his father, because there's a shibud on the land, is as if it belongs to his father. He's happy to give it to his father, even though he didn't pay the loan yet, or give him the rights and everything else, so that he can collect double. It should be considered a muhzik by the father. He can get double. But we're not sure if that really works. It's a suffix, because he didn't actually give it to him. So because it's a suffix, is that called row or muhzik, where he is the borrower? Therefore, we say, you know what? We're going to split it in half. So palgi, he only gets not a full double portion. He gets a half a double portion because mammon hamutul the suffix, right? We don't know if halachically it's considered a muhzik by the father, right? Because he's very happy that his father will be a lien on this land. He's only happy because of selfish interest, so that later on he'll get a double portion of this Yerushin. And therefore, he's very happy to give it to the father. Or we say that doesn't work that way. A b'choy borrower is no different than any other borrower, which you said before is considered row. And a row, you don't get a double portion. So therefore, Mama, how can we divide it? Okay, we'll stop here and clean tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem.